Hello fishing friends, this is Matthew with Fishing 13 bringing you another reel service and repair video. Today I'm working on an Abu Garcia Abumatic 1076. This is a really nice reel. One of the neat features on this is it has an oscillating spool. Let's get started. Okay, to work on this reel you're just going to need a couple of simple tools. A big screwdriver, a medium screwdriver, small screwdriver, and a small Phillips screwdriver. And that's about it. You'll also need some oil and you'll need some good reel grease. What we're going to do with this reel today is we're going to go through it, through the entire reel and take everything, just about everything apart. There are a few things we don't need to take apart. But we're going to completely clean it, oil it, and grease it. It's already in good operating condition, but I know that it's so old that it's never been worked on. And one of the problems with reels that get to be 10-15 years old and haven't been worked on, even though they've been kept really clean, is the grease starts to break down and get kind of sticky, and then there's certain things like the drag and the gears and things like that that get a little bit stiff. So we're going to service all that and take care of it. I'm going to show you how to do this and walk you through it. Before we get started, if you need a schematic to work on this reel, see the description below and I'll put a link to reelschematics.com and a link to the Abumatic 1076. Let's get started. The first thing you want to do is take the front cover off. This one has threads and it spins off. The next thing you're going to want to do is take the spinner cone off. This one, you just hold the handle and twist it off. Okay, and I like to inspect things as we go. One of the things we're going to need to do to this one is clean off the old grease and apply some new grease. The next thing we want to take off is the spool. This one is pretty simple. It just comes off by taking a small screwdriver, putting it in the slots on this E-ring, and give it a little twist. Hold on to it so it doesn't go flying across the room. The next thing we want to take off is we want to take off the drag washers. So this one is called a squared drag washer. In other words, it's slotted and it doesn't move. Okay. This one doesn't show in the schematic, but it's an additional washer, a shim. And then this has a Teflon washer. So they go in that order. Okay, so pay attention to that. Then you can take the spool off. Be careful, often the washer sticks to the back here, but this one hasn't. So we'll just set this aside up here. And then we have several washers we need to take off here. So we have a red drag washer. We have this brass shim washer. We have this, it's called a squared washer in the schematics. But basically, it's just a slotted washer that doesn't move. It has to go in a slot on the... And then this right here is a spring washer. It's kind of a wavy washer. Okay, and then we're done taking that all apart. The next thing we want to take off is, it's called a drag support. Basically, it's what moves the drag, and on the underneath it has these ramps. There's ramps there, and this is what when it tightens up, it pushes up against the drag. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to bring our attention to the handle and take the handle off. To take the handle off on this, you need kind of a big screwdriver or a penny, and you take this off right here. Okay, that came off, and it's just a cover for this screw right here. So let's use a slot screwdriver, or a regular screwdriver. The handle, so it's a big long screw. And then this comes off. The other thing you need to do as well is you need to take off this piece right here. But So you need a big fat screwdriver because there's some slots down here, and you just need to get in that slot and turn it, and it'll screw out. Okay. All right, now we're ready to use a small Phillips screwdriver or a small straight screwdriver. I prefer the small Phillips screwdriver. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off, there's 3 screws we want to take off first. We want to take off this one, and the one that's right underneath this clicker right here. You just kind of push this little clicker aside. But let's take off this one here. These other 4 screws are for holding on like an armature that holds the main axle in there. So you don't want to take those off until we get the cover off. So loosen these up and take them out. These are long screws, and they screw into plastic. Okay, actually they screw into this piece this plastic piece right here that holds the thumb button, but it also holds the back cover in place. And then you just kind of push this aside, get down in there, and get this screw out. This one, you don't need to take it all the way out. You just need to get it loosened. And then that cover drops off, okay? Just like that. Now, if you hadn't taken this out right here, this handle cover, this would have just kind of stayed in place. Okay, now we're going to inspect this. It looks nice and clean. We might wipe it out with a rag. That's all. We're just going to set it over here. Now let's take a look at this. It's called a main gear stand, and so there's 2 of these, one for each side. One's called a main gear stand A and main gear stand B. One of them, this side right here, has the anti-reverse mechanism in it. It's a continuous anti-reverse bearing. Okay, and then this side has the oscillator on it. So we just need to take out these 4 screws right here. So I recommend when you're taking this apart that you hold onto those stands on the back. Okay, now that we have those screws out, we can take these off, and all we want to do is kind of wiggle them up. And it's got some little pins built into there. See on the bottom there, it has 2 little pins, alignment pins, and so those come out. There's 2 little shim washers here. Those go against the main gear. Okay, let's set those aside there. And then let's take this one off. So just lift it up and then wiggle it out. And then we can kind of wiggle it out and take it apart, take it out here. Okay. So once that's out, this will come off the front there. Okay. And we don't need to take that clicker off. That's one of the things I was telling you about. And then we can take this main gear out. And it has a bearing on it. And if you have a little hook, that's the best thing. But I was able to get this front nose bearing out here just by reaching underneath there. And this is we're just going to oil it. And generally, it doesn't need cleaning unless it fell in some real silty water. Okay, and that's all taken apart. We don't need to take this thing apart here. I suppose you could, if you needed to, get underneath there and clean it. At this point, if it was all sandy and dirty, you could take the best thing to clean it with would be with some soapy water. Mine is really clean. It's been well taken care of. All I'm going to do is just wipe some grease out and put some new grease in it. Okay. Now, you don't need to take out this right here on this side has the anti-reverse bearing in it. All you need to do is take and use a little flat screwdriver to put some stiff grease in there. This side that goes into this bearing, this anti-reverse bearing, there's a little anti-reverse bearing surface here, and it's kind of slotted the same way. You can take that out. It doesn't matter. It can go back in either way. and then there's a bearing that comes off here, and then another little shim washer. Now all these shim washers are the same thickness, so if you got them mixed up, it would be okay. And that's it. All we're going to do now is we're just going to wipe things down and put it back together in reverse order. So I'll be back after I wipe it all down, and we'll put it back together. All right, I have all my parts cleaned up. I'm ready to put things back together. We're going to put it together in reverse order. One of the first things I want to do, though, before I start putting things together, is I want to oil all the bearings. So I have a bearing here. This is one of the handle bearings. I just want to put a very small few drops of oil. This is the nose bearing, and this is the other handle bearing. First thing I want to do is I want to put this little nose bearing in here, and it just friction fits like that. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and put this main shaft in here, and we want to take and oil this right here. Insert it like you want to take and put some oil on the main shaft here. Okay. And just fits in there like that. Okay, let's move that oil around a little bit. Okay, excellent. Now, on the oscillator itself, that's this piece right here. We could put some oil on this. Okay. We have one of these little copper or brass bushings that goes in here like so. And then this bearing goes on here. And then this little bearing service for the anti-reverse, this, and get all the way on there. Now one of the things you want to do is you want to take some bearing grease and a little brush or a screwdriver. I'm just going to use a little screwdriver. We want to put some grease we got to get this behind here, and so it's not too hard. You just kind of slip it in there like that. Then we want to take these and put this on, these two on here, like so. Put the bearing on here, just like that. Okay, now we're ready to put the stands back on. So we just want to take and we put one side on at a time. This lined up here. Get it put on. Then get the two little pins lined up. Turn it over. And get your screw started in. What? Then get them snugged down good. Okay, we got that one. Then we'll do the other side. Well, this is where we want to leave them a little bit loose until we get both sides put on. So you tighten them like I did, loosen them up just a turn. And that'll give you some room to kind of get these and wiggle these in here. Okay. Okay. Okay, excellent. Now at this point, this is where we want to grease this main gear, okay? Because you can't really put the handle on without the back cover being on, but this is where we can go ahead and make sure that this is all done. Okay, so we just want to take our gear grease, and I've got a little brush, and we don't want to put very much on. Remember, what gets squished out and slung off will never get back on there. So we'll grease the pinion and the main gear, and turn things around and grease it. Okay, and at this point you could take and put the handle on there and give it a little spin and work everything on there. Just make sure it's all in there. Okay, excellent. Okay. So the next thing is to put the back cover on. This will likely fall apart. So to put this back together, and if the handle comes out, the handle just comes out and it has the two flat spots. It just goes like that. Okay, and then with the Abumatic symbol up there, it just goes on just like this. Okay, and then all you want to do, take and put this back cover on. Now if you want to, and I like to do this, I like to put a little bit of grease right on that little part right there that goes against the main shaft that pushes things in. Okay, and then get that on there so it just fits nicely, and then hold the back together and then get your screws started. Start with these first two top screws, get them in there, and you can sink them down and then back off of them. So kind of to get these screws to line up with the old threads, just be real gentle, and then you'll feel it catch. And then okay, and then we get this last one here, drop it in there, then use a screwdriver to pull this aside, and I'll just drop in there like so. We start by putting in this drag adjuster, or it's in the schematic it's called a drag support. So all you got to do here is, one of the things you want to do is when you're putting this together, you don't want the drag to be all the way here to this side or it's all the way tight. You want it to be all the way here to the right. And you want to put a little bit of gear grease on the shaft right here. Okay, and just a really thin coat. Put this on. So it's like that. Okay, and then the first thing that goes on is the spring washer. Okay, so the spring washer first. Then you want to put a little bit of grease on it. Okay, and then this squared washer, the one that has the groove, and then you want to put a little bit of grease on it. Then you put this brass washer if you have one, it's a little shim, and then you put a little bit of grease on it. And then you put the red washer. Then I'm going to put a couple drops of oil on the shaft. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the spool on there. This is the clicker side. You want that side needs to go in like so. Okay. Then you want to put a little bit of oil grease on here. Put this Teflon washer on. Put a little bit of grease on there, just a little bit. Put on this washer, and then you can put on this, they call it a squared washer, but it goes in there into that groove. Okay, and then I put a little bit of grease on here, and put on this E-clip. And with the drag all the way loose, it's pretty easy to put on. All I had to do is just get that slot washer in the slot. And there we go. So that's back together. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to take and oil some points in this spinner cone. So I want to oil this hinge right here, and this little hinge right there. And I want to put a little bit of grease on this part right here, and oil this right here. Okay. All right. And you kind of have to push this in and spin it at the same time to get those threads to catch. And then do that. We can put the handle on. First we need to put this piece on right here. This handle cover part. Use a big screwdriver and just give it a little twist, not too much. And put this on. Make sure it's snug. And put this cover right here on. Make sure it's snug. Wow, it's much nicer, much smoother now. It used to not do that. So the last thing you want to do, nobody ever really talks about this, but is you want to give just a little drop of oil on each one of those handles and let it settle in. And that's it. That's the Abumatic 1076. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give me a big thumbs up. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.